Okay, so what is a database? How do we define a database? The textbook by Al-Masri and Navatha defines a database as a logically coherent collection of data that is designed and built for a specific purpose and represents some aspect of the real world. And that aspect is sometimes called a mini world, sometimes it's called a universe of discourse. And you do find these terms mini world and universe of discourse when people talk about, well, what aspect do we actually want to represent? What is part of our mini world? What may not be part of our mini world? Now, this is a definition. What do we do with that definition? Does that definition tell us about what is and what isn't a database? For example, is a handwritten address booklet a database? Is the internet a database? And there will be these questions interspersed in the lectures that I'm uploading. You cannot supply your answer to these lectures, but there will be separate Blackboard quizzes that draw on the set of questions that are in the lectures. You'll get a subset of the questions, and sometimes they are reformulated because for practical reasons. Some of the questions that I have in the lectures are what's called multiple answer questions. So a subset of the answers can be correct. And those in Blackboard, I rather represented them as true-false questions for any one of the possible answers. It's a technical question why I did that, but you will find that the content is represented in the lectures. And if you are not sure about the answers in the Blackboard quizzes, you can always go back to the lectures and find out what the correct answer was and what the explanation was. I won't upload the answers to the quizzes otherwise, because I do want to be sure that you understand the rationale rather than just memorizing a list of questions. So with that being said, I will leave you a few seconds now to think about this. So many of you will have recognized that the handwritten address booklet is a much better example of a database, because when you create an address booklet, you coherently organize the information you have about where your friends live, what their telephone numbers are, what their email addresses are. You design and build that booklet for a particular purpose so that you can remember the addresses of your friends, and it represents an aspect of the real world, which is the location, the ways in which they can be reached. The internet, well, what do you even mean with the internet? Even the World Wide Web is not designed for a particular purpose. It's not coherently structured. You can upload any document and make it accessible from the internet. Does not have to serve a specific purpose. By the way, I'm not actually sure how many of you still use handwritten address booklets, but I hope all of you have at least seen them. If you haven't, I mean, it's little booklets that hold addresses. I guess some people now probably just have all of that in their phone. Anyway, the point why discussing this is there are a couple of points to this. One, technology is a means to an end. It's not the goal in itself. The other thing is there is the design aspect. And if you don't design a database well, it's not going to be a good database. Now, with that being said, the lines are getting blurred. Some of the more modern databases that are not relational databases do provide very little structure, impose very few constraints, and may not fit that definition so well anymore. And then on the other hand, even when you have something that's apparently not very structured, like the internet, there are all sorts of aspects that do have a structure like ones that we would represent in a database. And just to make that last point, that even on the internet, or at least on the World Wide Web, at least as far as Wikipedia is concerned, there's actually quite a bit of structure. If you look at the layout of the information that is being represented by the software that powers Wikipedia, that is a classic database layout. And if you click on this, you will see that the layout looks very much the way that the relational databases look that we will discuss. And there is a relational database underlying this. Okay, and the next thing will be the reasons for using a database, and that will be the next video.